In 1993, a Swiss teenager named Dario Cicolecchia mysteriously disappeared following a fishing trip that he had taken in a creek near his village. When Dario did not come home later that evening, citizens became worried. The police were notified and they began to search the creek where Dario had been last seen, but Dario was nowhere to be found. Just several days later, two women who were walking their dogs near the Swiss-German border noticed a body in a cornfield. In it was the sexually abused and mutilated body of Dario Cicolecchia. Dario's murder would be revolutionary, as it would be the first time organic clues at a crime scene would be used to bring a killer to justice. This is the story of the murder of Dario Cicolecchia. Dario Cicolecchia was born in 1979 in a small Swiss village of New Paradis, which is 70 miles from the Swiss capital of Bern. Not much is known about Dario's early life, but it's believed that he had a typical life as a teenager and enjoyed life in the Swiss countryside. It is believed that Dario had lived with his parents and had lived in New Paradis his entire life. On August 4th, 1993, Dario left his home to go fishing near a small creek near his village. He rode his red bicycle down a path near the creek. He then left his bicycle at the path and went to the water's edge to fish. It was the last time that Dario would be seen alive. As the day progressed into the afternoon and then the evening, Dario was still nowhere to be found. Dario's parents then contacted the police. 100 police officers along with search dogs combed the area where Dario was last seen. They found a shirt, fishing pole, swim trunks, and a red bicycle, all belonging to Dario Cicolecchia. By this time, Swiss news and television began to report on the missing teenager. Police then dammed the creek to search for Cicolecchia, but they could not find his body. On August 6, 1993, a couple of women who were walking dogs near the border between Switzerland and Germany then noticed blood on a path that led into a cornfield. In it lay a decaying, naked body of a teenage boy. It was later identified to be Dario Cicolecchia. The police then arrived and soon deduced that Dario was sexually molested and had long slash marks on his body from a pocket knife. "I will never forget all of my life," Swiss District Attorney Peter Newcomb said. "There were cuts and bruises in the genital area." Medical examiner Daniel Weiler determined that the relative lack of blood meant that Dario was killed at another location and sexual abuse happened after Dario had been killed. A sneaker that Dario wore was also found next to his body. When medical doctors examined Dario's sneaker, they found no DNA evidence. However, examiner Daniel Weiler swabbed Dario's mouth and examined the evidence under a microscope. He found small, microscopic organisms called diatoms. A diatom is a form of microscopic algae that makes up a major portion of aquatic microscopic organisms in the world. Diatoms are found in lakes, rivers, oceans, and streams. Diatoms can also be found in watery areas that contain rocks and mud. Diatoms are known for their glass-like skeletons and highly symmetrical and intricate designs of their bodies. Diatoms are incredibly diverse, with over 16,000 different species worldwide and more than 3,000 species in Switzerland alone. Diatoms are studied for their ability to store data on climate change and other environmental conditions. Dr. Weiler then sent the diatom samples to marine biologist Jossam Herleman, who is an expert in diatoms. Herleman determined that the diatoms found on Dario belonged to the species of diatoms called Flagellaria pinnata. Flagellaria is found in environments of slow-moving water like creeks and streams. Flagellaria pinnata was found in a DNA swab of Dario Cicolecchia's mouth. Police investigators believe that Dario was drowned in a creek by an unknown assailant. The fact that the body was found near the Swiss-German border meant that the killer was also a traveler. Swiss officials also asked the citizens of New Paradis about Dario. Dario's parents were also questioned. Swiss authorities then contacted the International Criminal Police Organization, commonly known as Interpol, for help. Interpol facilitates an international crime prevention and criminal apprehension that spans over 170 countries. After 3 months following Dario's death, Swiss authorities got a lead from France in which an unidentified man tried to sexually assault a teenage hitchhiker. The man's name was Roland Keebler. Roland Keebler was a nurse who had recently been divorced and had a 5-year-old daughter. Interpol had recorded that Keebler had been in Switzerland at the time Dario went missing. Following the tip from France, Swiss officials brought Keebler in for questioning. In the beginning, Keebler denied any involvement in Dario's murder, but then he made an incriminating statement about investigators needing to check his car. Investigators then checked Keebler's car and examined the gas and brake pedals and the carpet in the driver's seat and in the trunk. Forensic analysis found the diatom Flagellaria pinnata in Roland's car, the same diatoms that were found in Dario's lungs, on his sneakers, and on the rocks at the creek. Roland Keebler was arrested for the murder of Dario Cicolecchia, and Keebler confessed to the crime. On the afternoon of August 4th, 1993, 13-year-old Dario Cicolecchia rode his bicycle down a path to a creek to go fishing near his village. He left his bike at the road and walked to the edge of the creek. Roland Keebler was on vacation at the time and was intoxicated. Keebler stated to police that he had become sexually attracted to young boys and that when he saw Dario's bicycle, he had become sexually aroused. Dario saw Keebler and they had a brief chat. Keebler then attacked Dario. He forced Dario to strip naked and then sexually molested him. Roland then drowned Cicolecchia in the creek. He then took Dario's body to a cornfield near Switzerland's border with Germany. Roland also muted Cicolecchia before dumping the body. What Roland didn't know was that he had left a trail of microscopic evidence in his wake, evidence that would lead him to his capture and eventual arrest. Keebler was arrested and charged with the murder of Dario Cicolecchia and sentenced to life in prison. Keebler also confessed to the murder of another teenager 10 years prior in 1983. The community of New Paradise created a shrine at the creek where Dario was murdered, and in a churchyard nearby, a grave for Cicolecchia is erected. On top of it is a statue of Dario, representing the loss of innocence. The murder of Dario Cicolecchia was the first time a killer had been brought to justice based on microscopic biosignatures.